Namaste, Avalon here. I would like to take this chance to tell you about the way in which I work with people. I found it this way and developed it over about 19 years. What I found was that there were if I combined three approaches to the inner work, I was able to yield the most rapid, most effective, and sustaining levels of change in people. Of course, it was facilitated, so they were doing the main work, but so long as I use these methods to help frame the process and guide the energy, then we could really land at a big transformation at the end of every session. So there are three pillars to this method. The first is the linear way, the second is the quantum way, and the third is the divine way. So in the first approach, it is similar to traditional forms of healing that are psychosomatic in nature. That means utilizing the body and the experiencing of the body, the getting in touch with the emotions in the body to be able to release them and come back into a balanced state. The second is a quantum way, and this is helping and supporting the first way. The first way would be considered linear because it's very step by step. It's effective, but it's incremental. And the quantum way, what it does is it has an understanding for the depth of a process and the expanse of a process, and helps people by traversing large amounts of time and space in the framework of a session. And this way they can move towards the end of a particular process more quickly than if they were just doing it a linear step-by-step way. So the third one is divine grace, and that is basically calling in higher level transformation, calling in intervention, and opening to the possibility of miracles. And when this doorway is open, then very big leaps in growth and conscious evolution take place. So let me tell you a little bit about each one. So the first pillar is called the linear way, or I call it the linear way. And it is a psychosomatic method of visceral processing in the body. By going deeply and honestly into our feeling body and acknowledging all lessons in conscious awareness, blockages can be released in full. If there are barriers to entering the feeling body, they must be first addressed. These may include lack of sensitivity, fear of vulnerability, numbness to feeling, excessive self-protection, unconscious resistance, fear of pain, fear of change, death of the unknown, denial of issues, self-delusion based on false affirmations, and so on and so forth. And if there is external influence or interference, this must be cleared at the outset. That means that you're not only holding your energy in your body, that somehow there might be things that you picked up throughout your day when you were in the proximity of others, their energies, their emotions, their feelings, that somehow got connected to your field. So once we overcome the barriers to the healing process, then we can begin the healing process. So we first help you to feel safe and supported to be able to enter deeply within. And then we begin to use an array of tools that will help you to awaken the energies that are present, to process them, and to release what no longer serves you. Each tool, which is really the way in which we work with a specific block, will be unique to every block. And in that process, I will guide you and let you know what is the best way and what is the most straight path to release a specific block. About blocks, to truly clear one, we cannot just know it, as in cognize it, and we cannot just witness it, as in observe it. That is the first level, becoming aware, but what we must do is we must enter a state of experiencing. Only a felt sense of the issue And bringing that to completion will be truly enough to uproot it. A block is often scattered throughout the body or one's personal field, and sometimes it can even go further out. So what we begin to do is centralize the energy we're working with and bring it to one place on the body, generally the heart or the solar plexus. Then we can work with the whole of it in one place. And through various means like breathing or sound or touch or feeling or memory or intention, we will be able to open up these specific blockages and our feelings and then access the depth of them. Where are they rooted? And go to the bottom of that. And as we work with each energy and each blockage, eventually they come to completion, which means the energy dissipates and we assimilate the learning. We gain the personal insight and suddenly find ourselves beyond it. It is no longer triggering us or bothering us. When we go back to view it, we feel neutral. And so, in this sense, we have willed ourselves and evolved ourselves beyond the need to revisit the same learning. So, I will guide this process and as well take heed to help you to discover your inner space, offer you help in insights with what might be blind spots for you, but insofar as possible, lead you to come to them on your own so that you stay empowered in this process. And so that you, as we heal you and you receive the facilitation, that you're also learning how to heal yourself. You're learning that pathway. Now, the second pillar is the quantum way. And while the first pillar is effective, it is incremental, which means it can take much time. So what we want to do is we want to avoid elongated processes of therapy that could take many months or even years for people. And it is possible when we basically use the quantum way, collapsing the time-space continuum. An emotion can sometimes feel so enormous that one feels crushed by its weight and unsure how to even begin. But no matter how large or overwhelming an energy feels or an emotion feels, it is always possible to find the perimeter of that energy field, no matter how far out it extends. So even when pain feels infinite, it can still be captured in terms of cycles of infinity. And having that end point, being able to measure the size of that field, gives us a concrete way to process it and to know our progress within that processing. It helps us to effectively count ourselves towards the completion of a process. And sometimes there may be a wound we come across and it feels like, oh, this is so heavy and stagnant. I'm going to its depth. However, it feels like it's still not moving. It's still not really being worked through. And then we know to jump time. So we can feel that this is such a heavy energy, it could actually take years to be in someone's being before they're able to truly integrate it and work with it. It could take years, it could take lifetimes. So when we feel like this pain is eternal, it can still be measured in terms of cycles of eternity. So again, by way of visceral processing, we then count through levels, moving towards a preconceived endpoint. And at times, as we're counting time, we might pause to integrate and assimilate a certain learning relative to a certain level. And in this way, we do not rush through anything or avert important learnings along the way. We ensure that we bring our issues to full completion and full dissolve. So bringing it energetically to completion and also bringing it to completion on the level of our intelligence. That means we have learned from it completely. So So whether we're contracting time or space or both, what previously seemed unimaginable or unfathomable to heal comes into view as being truly possible to overcome. The deepest patterns, traumas, and karmas can be released employing quantum means. One only needs to open to the possibility of non-linear possibilities. So, the third way is the divine way, and the third pillar of this method. And that's where we join human effort with divine grace. It is likened to the analogy of the body. It is like the cell opening to the body, the micro calling out to the macro, asking for the greater whole to converge around itself as a part that seeks for help. So it is not staying stranded as a lone one on a lone boat trying to make it against opposing rain, fierce wind, and torrential waters. Instead, it is realizing that the forces of the universe are listening, compassionate, and ready to intervene, as a loving parent naturally would if their beloved child were to call out for help. Now, to clarify, the grace we refer to here does not belong to a religion. It is in reference to the universal light and intelligence present, of which we are not separate from and all a part of. If you don't have any belief in a higher power, no problem. You just simply have to open to the possibility that you have a connection to the whole. And that whole, should you call it for help, will hear you and support you in the way that it can. So, inner breakthroughs are indeed in your dominion to pray for. So it's kind of, I'm explaining a caveat. So sometimes we make prayers or requests for external change, and they don't always come through. I want to win the lottery, for example, right? Or I wish this person would just stop doing this to me. Okay, so we have certain requests for change. But we can really only pray on our own behalf. When we pray, it must not infringe upon the free will of others. Or, if we're making big prayers, we must not ask the laws of the universe to break. In this sense, the tide of the ocean or the direction of the wind may not be the grand intervention, but rather, if you're praying for help and you're stranded on a boat, it might just be a fellow boat that comes up to your side and offers you a ride, or a person from the shoreline that offers you a hand. Nonetheless, as miracles are not limited by size and are meant to override the impossible, we can say that anything is possible even still. So in this third pillar, it is opening to divine grace, where an impasse that once felt very difficult or even impossible to cross may suddenly be crossed. And one need not believe anything as such, only be open to the possibility that higher help exists. So, hopefully I've been concise, but basically when I work with people, I use these three pillars. Whether I work with individuals or groups, I bring this together. We bring people into sacred space. We ask for that divine guidance and that divine support, that blessing. And that only truth comes through the portal of that sacred space. And that we help people by joining with the divine and receiving that grace, as well as doing the real work of psychosomatic experience, deepening in our energy body, in our emotional body, and gleaning the insights for our mental body. And at the same time, not taking forever by employing some quantum means that allow us to go quickly from A to B without missing necessary steps. This would be similar like traveling from one city to another. You don't have to pay perfect attention to the entire road, but you do need to pay attention at certain crosswalks where you might have to take a turn, or certain signposts or landmarks. And so that's what's happening here. When we do the quantum way, we don't have to follow it incrementally, step by step, as long as we walk the path earnestly, feel earnestly, and just pay attention to certain signposts along the way that are important and significant and have an insight to offer. So I have found by utilizing these 3 ways, we can really bring about a great shift, a deep shift and sustaining shift for people. Of course, nothing is finite, so anyone at any time can reverse a healing if they should choose so. So we always work as well with reversing the impulse to recreate suffering or recreate issues, because we do incarnate to experience the human experience and the spectrum of feeling. And so it's true, some people actually love the experience of falling in love and heartbreak, and falling in love and heartbreak. And if you were to take the heartbreak away too soon, they might be upset. So, it's really to each their own. I just facilitate the process and help you learn to align with your highest path and avert the desire to recreate the old, and just keep progressing and moving forward. So I hope this was a clear enough explanation, and you can refer to the text to see it more clearly at your own pace. Thank you.